a painting is an illusion, sculpture is a reality. So that's what we key into. And as an artist, you want the creation to start to give you, it starts to lead its way. I always think you have a concept idea from the research you've done, and you have this thing in your head of how you're going to see it, but then it just starts to take its own course. That's the magic of sculpture. Every morning I get up, I love that space between the time to create and invent ideas and what we're looking to achieve. So that moment in the morning for me, with no phone calls, no distractions, is when I start to create. And it's probably the most peaceful time to think. And you put the music or whatever you want to create that atmosphere in the studio. But when you come in the studio, you've got that peace. You can feel the energy in it, and you can feel the sort of contemplation that you're trying to get to the whatever sculpture you're working on at the time. Just gives you that peace. So the morning, that lovely morning coffee I love, and the whole energy of the morning, and I say no distractions, it's just me, the studio, and the work I'm trying to focus on. And there's an element of that makes me feel so full and just ready to go. It's just such a great part of the day. And like, as people know, watch sunrise, it's all just adds that energy to what you're trying to do and makes you feel good. So it's a magic part of the day for me in the studio. And it always starts off with a bit of a bounce. It's great, it really does feel good. There's three key elements for what I try to achieve, and the first one is experience, and that's getting out there, getting out in the field, getting out into these countries where these animals actually are, and that's what the most important thing. And because you feel that energy, you feel the animal, and that to create, it has to be in you. You can't just look at pictures, you can't go to a zoo. You have to see these animals in their environment, experience that. And I think that's what we key into. And as an artist, you're always looking not to really control what you're trying to create. You want the creation to start to give you, it starts to lead its way in the way you've got an idea. Or I always think you have a concept idea from the research you've done, and you have this thing in your head of how you're going to see it, but then it just starts to take its own course. And as you're creating it, that's the magic of sculpture, that it really lives. Like a painting is an illusion, sculpture is a reality. So it's a really major part of what we're doing, is getting that research, understanding what you're trying to achieve, and getting that goal right. The second element is basic craftsmanship and the skills it takes to make a piece very unique in its own right. And that comes through all the elements we produce. So there's about 7 elements to that. And the way we've produced what we do, we have our own mixtures, which makes it very unique. We do things very different to other foundries in the country. We've got our own way of doing it. And that's important to us, because that's when we finish the surface of our pieces. The grand thing about all the skills we have makes our pieces unique. So how do we get to that point? The one thing about it is the experience of having a good studio, creating that wax from the armature to the wax, and then going to the lost wax, to the ceramic, to the bronze. So from that point, the skill sets are making the mold. We create a 2-pack mold on a simple piece, or a complex piece that can be up to 5-6 part molds, that we then do our lost wax in. So once we've got that wax done, we've then got to make that wax into a chandelier with the feeds going into it for the metal and the exhaust coming out. Then we then create the ceramic on that, which has become another recipe that we have, which is unique to us. So once we've got them ceramics done, that's the another one-off part. So you have one-off wax, one-off ceramic that we then pour the molten bronze into, and that's again another one-off process. Now in everything we create, we cannot control the elements of bronze. It'll go thick, thin, it'll pull, it'll just stretch, distort. And that's its beauty in many ways, that when you pour it, you have so many seconds to get it in. Within that so many seconds, you end up with something. The moment you're breaking it out, it's different to the ones you produced before and the ones you're gonna produce. And the legacy of bronze goes through generations of our forefathers and cultures around the world, which still fascinates me today. Then once we clean that, we cut all the bronze off to get to the piece we need. So all that chandelier disappears. Then we have to then start carving, chasing and cutting that piece. That's another one-off stage. So that will be unique for the next one and the next one. Once we've started chasing that and making that unique, we then get it ready for mounting. So we get the bronze ready to mount onto the granite, the marble. But then once we start to color that bronze, it's like, it's a 3-dimensional painting. that you have real no control over, which I really like. There is certain people that control a certain amount of colours on bronze, but they're doing it with different things like acrylics. But when you're doing it with water-based colours like dioxides, it reacts to the thickness and the thinness of the bronze and also the heat. So there's a lot of elements to get that colour right, which is what makes them, again, unique. So all these elements and what we've done in craftsmanship within these elements is a massive part of what we create today. And that, having that dynamics and having that belief in what we do and what we create and what we deliver is massive. Legacy to me is creating sculpture around the world. We've already sold all around the world now. You name a country in the world, we've sold our bronzes there. And that's an amazing thing, because it makes me always think about immortal. When I'm dead and gone, my signature, my work is all around the world. I'm going to live on. And then once we create that legacy and the people then buy into this legacy and buy what we produce, it becomes their legacy, which is amazing when you think about that, because we've got buyers now where their families are sort of fighting over who's going to inherit this bronze. And I love that. There's a magic about that. They think, oh, because when you buy a piece of sculpture, it lives in your house. It's not like on the wall. It's a part you walk around, you touch it. You may come in from work and just feel it. And that's something that bronze has, that real energy that projects to people and sort of starts to connect with the family that have bought it. So I think that's massive. So between people buying our legacy and our dream, then that lives on and goes on with their dream and just continues. And that's the thing that's so magical about bronze, that synergy between the buyer and the creator. I think it's beautiful. My affinity with horses started, well, Roxy at 5 years old wanted a little pony, we got her one. And so we started connecting over the years while she changed horses, and really we started connecting as a family with horses. A lot of work, which horses are, that people know them. And that was the start of me really studying and looking at the animal, watching the way it moved in the field as it went over the jumps, and sort of connecting how powerful and what great energy horses are. They can be a little bit naughty and cheeky, and I think that's what's nice about them. They have a great soul about them. They have a great presence, more than anything, perhaps is the right word. And also that connection between cultures around the world, our histories. We're drawn to them. There's an element of balance and power and magic, and Grounded Serenity is much about that. It's that balance, that connection with the earth, the grounding, and it's somewhat unusual for what we're creating now, in the sense of we're really going more contemporary with this sculpture and talking about the colours and where we lead with this. And the nice thing about Grounded Serenity, there's a lot of people know me for my eyes and getting that control and focus with the cats and the wildlife we do. With Grounded Serenity, we've took that out to make the focus on the contemporary form rather than that focal point. And that's what gives it that nice energy of tranquility. It's a bit like when you sculpt it with its eyes closed, it's more about thought and feeling and energy. And that's what we've tried to capture with Grounded Serenity. Obviously, we've got the colours we can put in, because they're marvellous colours with horses. So we wanted to pick up on some of them colours of what we've done with the brown and the blue we've done. We're pushing it a little bit with the blue, but I think that's what gives it that contemporary edge and makes it unique in what we're trying to achieve. And I think with horses being so magical, and with this having its nose, as with Grounded Serenity, it's connected to the earth as we all should be. That grounding gives it that element of connection. So we're picking them elements out and bring them into something that you can actually physically see. So when you have that in something like this in your house, it's magical.